Now, let's also talk about what happened in Victoria today. Patrick Murrell looks back at the events today. The latest, I know nothing, the Health Minister. Bronwyn, what did you think of the behaviour that was happening today, where yet another minister, the third minister, on top of the 3 people from the police service, 2 from the health system, 2 from the bureaucracy, all of them have no idea. Yet Dan says he will, of course, the buck will stop with him. How do we think that'll go tomorrow?
Look, Paul, it shows fundamentally why the federal government has to be back in charge running the country. And it can be done. We can do it. And it means upholding the Constitution. And it means that we have to use the powers that are given there. And we can do it. We have to, first of all, straighten our spine, take the hook out of our mouth and determine that we are taking action. That's got to be the mantra for the government. The first thing it can do is use the quarantine power under the Constitution, and where a federal law is in conflict with a state law, the Constitution provides that the federal law will prevail. It can rejoin the action before the High Court for Section 92 and enforce Section 92, argue it, intervene and become a part of that action again. It can. It's at the discretion of the court to let them in, but I can't believe they wouldn't let them do it. And the third one is look at the Constitution in a new and innovative way. Section 101 of the Constitution has been inert for a long, long time. It provides for the provision on the creation of an interstate commission. And the interstate commission would have powers to enforce and maintain the trade and commerce laws that are made pursuant to the Constitution, and would again give the Commonwealth more power. Now, this is an innovative decision, but I think it's time that we started to look at those things. Because unless the Commonwealth is back in charge, this country is just going to go down and down and down. More young people are going to have no opportunities for their livelihood. They see their future slipping away. We have to have a conscience for those young people. We have to ensure that the Commonwealth again runs the country, and that laws are made in accordance with the Constitution for the peace, welfare and good government of the country. And unless we see action, it's not going to happen.
So, one more time, back to Victoria specifically here. Here is again Ginny Mikakos playing that stupid game that all of them seem to have just accidentally worked out together is the best way to make sure no one gets blamed for 700 people dying.
Well, I'm responsible for my own department, but this was a program that was involved many departments and agencies, and therefore there is shared accountability there with those respective departments and agencies reporting to their respective ministers.
Pauline, it's late enough at night. You're not too far from the Daintree right now. You're sitting in a pub. Bronwyn's in the man cave. Matt's there in the factory. So let's just talk like normal people. This is such bullshit. And people know it's bullshit. And they know they're being lied to, yet for some reason what you are also learning as a normal person about this is that your role as the Victorian citizen is shut up and follow the rules. Your rule in the Melbourne media is don't ask any questions. Your rule when it comes to the government is invent an inquiry in the hopes that you can just skip out of it by changing the subject every day.
Paul, what I'm hearing is people are absolutely fed up with these inquiries. They have no faith in the politicians. They have no faith in the inquiries anymore because what happens is that's it, nothing happens. That's why people have lost faith in the bureaucracy, in our governments, and they say, you know, you politicians are all the same. So what's the whole point? We have lost our democracy in so many ways in our country that we've lost faith in our government, we've lost respect for the people that we're supposed to, myself as a politician, I'm being elected to actually represent the people and fight for the people, for the betterment. And a lot of people appreciate that and told me that. But I see it on the floor of Parliament, Paul, I see it as I walk, in the country. I've lost faith in these inquiries, I've lost faith in the bureaucrats myself personally, because I see it and I understand how the people feel. And it's a real shame. And they'll keep carrying it on all the time until you get people that will stand up and say, enough is enough. We're sick of this. You are controlling our lives. You're telling us what to do. There's 2 sets of rules in this country. One for the politicians, one for the bureaucrats, one's for the rich, and then we treat all our Australians totally different. Well, it's about time the people had their say and stop living in fear, that fear of being fined or fear of ridicule or fear of someone actually pointing the finger at you and talking about you. It's about people started to stand up and have their say.
Well, and I agree too. Don't just go up to Pauline in a bar. Join her party if that's what you believe in. Don't just say, good on you, Matt, on Twitter. Join his party, all right? Like this, like actually become part of the solution to get better people in and around our parliaments and more energy on this. Because, you know, again, Matt, you're in a factory. It's late at night on a Thursday. People are so enraged by this stuff. But then a poll comes out and says 70% of people are happy with the way that things are working in Victoria. The majority of people are happy with the way that Palaszczuk is doing things in Queensland. You know, I know that that's not the reality, but that's just what keeps being shoved at people. And then eventually, your role as citizen is to shut up. I refuse to accept that. You do, Pauline, and Bronwyn does. But there's an awful lot of people who are more than happy to roll over while, they get a tickle.
The fundamental problem here, Paul, is that some, I was going to say political leaders, but they're not, but some politicians in this country think that their fundamental job is to get re-elected, when their job actually is to govern their state or country for the best interests of the Australian people. And so there are people here, like late at night, they're working behind me. They're on the tools, fixing up a dragline bucket behind me, welding that together so we can go back out to the mines and make money for our country. You know, they don't do their job before they come to work. They don't poll people in Mackay and decide, well, how am I going to fix this bucket? I'll ask a few people and do it that way. They get judged on the results of their work and how long that bucket lasts out there. And that's what we need to get back to. We need to judge governments on the outcomes of their decisions, not how popular they are at any given time. And I think that will be exposed. I mean, yes, you see the polls right now say Dan Andrews' government is supported in what they're doing, but I think people are trying to have team spirit right now. There will come a day of reckoning. There will come a time where we'll have to assess back the results of what people did. It doesn't matter how many times they do the Colonel Clink impersonation and say, I know nothing. The fundamental buck stops with ministers in that government and with Dan Andrews in particular.
Yeah, and I mean, Bronwyn, again, the reason, I mean, look, I'm going to get people think I've been serious now. I'm getting very serious about the Queensland election when the date ticks over and we can get into this thing next week. But you see the rubbish being played in Queensland, right? Another week of problems, and then they come up with a solution at the end of the week, not to manage the virus, not to manage the people, but to manage the front page, to manage the 6 p.m. news. And because, frankly, people are busy. It's not that they're dumb, it's just they're busy. If you're not really paying attention, well, it's hard to pick them up on every little thing that they do that's bad. But I tell you what, as soon as you start to pay attention, like the scales fell off Saul's eyes before he became Paul, you're aware of every little thing they do.
Well, Paul, it's all window dressing, but it's essentially about power and about keeping power. And it doesn't matter whether it's Daniel Andrews or whether it's Premier Palaszczuk. It's the same thing. It is a socialist system. They don't respect the citizens. They don't care about individuals or the implication it has for individuals. It is all about them exercising power. And so many of these press conferences we see are seriously designed to bemuse and confuse. I mean, in ancient times, the old emperors would say, give them bread and circuses. And that's about as much care they give for the people that they're governing for. So let's hope, let's pray that people see through it and see, as the Queensland election comes, that they see that there are so many problems that this government is in its wake, questions of corruption, questions of favouritism, questions of not properly managing the economy, that they see there is a need for change of government and to say we can do better. But it's going to be a tough election, because I am simply amazed that the number of people who I talk to here and even in New South Wales who say, oh no, it's all okay, it's okay, we can give up that freedom for this time. I am appalled to see that people are willing to see their freedom go away and not fight back. But there are good people who are prepared to. Let's hope they have the day.